Good morning, students.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. Very good morning. You're all able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So let's quickly begin right away. Right. So in the last class, we were discussing about a very important locking protocol, that is 2PL, or the two-phase locking protocol. Right. So in this two-phase, let me give you a quick recap of what we have learned. So in the two-phase locking protocol, we said that a particular transaction is set to follow this two-phase locking protocol if all the locking operations which should come before the first unlock operation. If that is being followed by the transaction, then we say that the transaction is following the two-phase locking protocol. Right. So all the locking operations should come before the first unlock operation. Right. And we also said that there are two phases in this. One is called as the expanding phase or the growing phase, and then we have the shrinking phase. Expanding phase or the growing phase is the first phase. Okay. Shrinking phase is generally the second phase. So in the expanding phase or the growing phase, they can only acquire the new locks. No lock can be released. Whereas in the shrinking phase, only the locks can be released. You cannot acquire, the transaction cannot acquire any new locks. Right. So we also saw a couple of examples of what is exactly a two-phase locking protocol. Right. And then we saw the different variations of two-phase locking protocol. We discussed about the general two-phase locking protocol is nothing but the basic 2PL. Then the next one that we learned was conservative 2PL, which you also call as the static 2PL. That was the second thing that we learned. And then we learned the next one was the strict 2PL. That was the third variation that we learned. So these are the three variations that we learned. So in the basic is the general 2PL. Just give you to give you a quick recap of what each one of these are. Conservative means, as I said, it should pre-declare its read set and the write set. Right. So that means a transaction should know beforehand, like what are all the data items it wants to read on and what are all the data items it wants to write. So this read set and the write set should be known to the transaction, and it should acquire the logs for all the item before it starts the execution of the transaction. Even if one of the item is not going to be available, then it cannot actually lock it. It has to wait until all the transactions, until all the read items or until all the data items become ready or they are available. Even if one is not available, then they cannot actually acquire the logs. Right? That is the conservative or the static 2PL. Then we went for the strict 2PL. So strict 2PL means any of the transactions, they are not allowed to release the exclusive or the write logs. Any of the write logs or the exclusive log cannot be released until it commits or it aborts. Until one of this operation is over, it cannot release any of the exclusive logs or the write logs. That is the third variation, which is the strict 2PL. We are left with the last variation, which is the rigorous 2PL. Rigorous 2PL. Now, in this variation, there is a small difference between strict and rigorous. In case of this rigorous 2PL, it's a more restrictive version of, or a more stronger variation of your strict 2PL. In rigorous 2PL, a transaction will not release any of the locks. Either it could be a shared lock or it could be an exclusive lock. None of them will be released until it commits or aborts. Only after it commits, that means only if all the transactions are successfully completed, only then it will release any of its locks. Either it is shared lock or an exclusive lock. What did we see? We call this as a more stronger or a stricter version of your strict 2PL. Why? Because in strict 2PL, only these write locks or exclusive locks will not be released. Whereas if the transaction is holding a shared lock or a read lock, it can still release it before committing. Okay, that is the only difference. It will not release any of the write locks or the exclusive lock unless it commits. In case of stricter. In case of rigorous, I said it's a more stricter variation of your strict 2PL. In case of rigorous 2PL, what happens? None of the locks will be released unless it commits or aborts. That is either unless it commits or aborts, only after it successfully finishes its execution, it will release the shared lock or the exclusive lock. Any lock, be it shared lock, read lock, or exclusive or the write lock. Okay, so that's the difference between strict and rigorous 2PL. So we have seen what is 2PL, what are the different variations of 2PL. That is, you have the basic version, you have the conservative version or the static version, you call it. We have the strict 2PL and the rigorous 2PL. These are the 4 important variations of 2PL. It's a very important concept, right? Any doubts or questions at this point of time before I proceed further? I think we were left with rigorous till strict 2PL we had completed in the last class. This is what is rigorous for today's class. Before I proceed, if you have any questions or doubts, you can ask. Let me give you a moment's time.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, good. So let me proceed. Now, we are going on to the next topic, that is, next concept rather, that is concurrency control based on timestamp ordering. This is our next topic. Now, under this, we are going to first learn what is a timestamp. And then we are also going to learn the timestamp ordering algorithm. Okay, so these are the 2 concepts that we are going to learn. Concurrency control based on timestamp ordering. So this concurrency control based on timestamp ordering means it is not going to use the concept of locks. So far we learned concurrency control using the concept of locks. So we started with what is a lock, what is a binary lock, what is a multiple mode lock. Then we went to the protocol of 2PL that is also again based on the lock. So all this concurrency, one set of the concurrency control techniques we learned, which is implemented using locks. This is the next set of techniques wherein the concurrency control is going to be implemented based on timestamps. They are going to be based on timestamps. So we are not going to here use the concept of locks. So that means to say that concurrency control can be implemented using locks. It can be implemented using timestamp also, right? So let us move ahead. So first we will understand what is a timestamp. Now, whenever you are coming across a timestamp, generally, if you are not going to, if you see it outside the scope of DBMS, then a timestamp means what? You do some particular payment, you do a kind of a transaction in the POS, you do some bill payments, you get to know at what time and what date you have done that transaction, right? That is nothing but your timestamp in the generic sense, right? So that is what you call it as a timestamp outside the scope of DBMS I'm talking. Okay, so all your bill payments, online receipts, transactions that you have done. If you see the receipts are the no, the kind of proof that you have for the transaction, it will always have a timestamp. So what is this timestamp going to contain there? It is going to contain the date. It is going to contain the time at which that particular payment was done or the transaction was done. Okay, so that apart, let us now try to understand what is a timestamp with respect to the within the scope of DBMS. Okay, now the timestamp we can define it as a unique identifier. Unique identifier which is created by the DBMS. Okay, why do you have this unique identifier? This is created by DBMS in order to identify a transaction. I want to identify a particular transaction as to when it was done, in what, whether it was done first transaction, whether it was the last transaction that was executed. How do I keep track of these transactions? How do I identify them? Okay, that is by every transaction is given a unique identifier, a unique ID. Now that unique ID of every transaction, you call it as a timestamp. Okay, how do you assign this? When I say it is a unique ID or a unique identifier, it should be assigned by, it is assigned by or created by the DBMS. How does this DBMS assign the values? How does it assign the IDs? Now, for example, you all have USN. How do we assign USN for you all? It is based on your alphabetical order of your names. So first we sort the names A to Z, and then once the names are sorted, first name is first USN, second name is second USN, third name is third USN, and so on. Like that, we go on assigning it. So in that case, that way we do it. So there should be some mechanism in which by which you are going to assign this timestamps. How do you assign, or how does this DBMS assign these unique values to the transactions? Because every transaction you should be able to uniquely identify them. How are you going to do that? How is this timestamp assigned? So this timestamps are assigned in the order in which the transactions are submitted. So first transaction, whichever is submitted for execution, that will get the first timestamp. In whatever order the transactions are submitted for execution, that is the order in which the timestamps are going to be allotted. So first timestamp is given to the, let us say timestamp 1, T1, let us say. T1 will be assigned to the first transaction which is executed or which is submitted for execution. T2 will be given to the second transaction which is submitted for execution. Okay, so that means a timestamp can be thought of as a or I'll put it as, can be thought of as a transaction start time. The time that it starts is when the ID is assigned to that particular transaction. So first transaction, let us say it starts at 10 o'clock. So that particular transaction will have the timestamp as T1. Second transaction starts at 10:05. That will have the transaction T2. Something like that, right? So always a timestamp can be thought of as a transaction start time, because the order in which the transactions are submitted for execution, that is the order in which you are going to assign the unique identifier or assign the timestamp. A timestamp of a transaction T is always referred to as TS of T. TS of T means what? Timestamp of this particular transaction T. T is a transaction. The timestamp of the transaction you are referring it to as TS of T. So concurrency control techniques which are based on timestamp ordering will not use any locks. Therefore, there cannot be any deadlock which can occur in this case. That's a big advantage of timestamp ordering, concurrency using timestamp. Any doubt so far? I said, I'll just give you a summarize. I said timestamp is a unique identifier. Okay, it's a unique ID which is given by the DBMS in order to identify a particular transaction. So how do they identify, or how do they assign the timestamp to a particular transaction? Timestamps are assigned to the transactions in the order in which they are submitted for execution. First transaction will get the first ID, second transaction will get the second ID, and so on. Hence, timestamp can also be called as the transaction start time. So, whenever that transaction starts, it is submitted for execution and it starts execution. That is when a particular ID is assigned to it as a timestamp. So a timestamp of a transaction is always indicated or referred to as TS of T. Right? So this, I said, concurrency control using timestamp is a different kind of implementation which will not use any logs. Concurrency control can be implemented using logs. It can be implemented using timestamps as well. When you use timestamps, you are not using any logs. Hence, there is no occurrence of deadlock when you are using timestamps. Any questions? Any doubts? Right. If there are no questions at all, let me proceed. Let me change the page. Now, let us see what are the ways in which the timestamps can be generated. How do you generate timestamps? I said that you are going to assign a timestamp during the start of that particular transaction. How is it going to? What is the possibility that? How are the different ways in which you can generate them? How can you generate them? One possibility to generate a timestamp is to make use of a counter. So this counter gets incremented each time you assign a value to a transaction. Okay, every time you are going to assign an identifier to a transaction, the counter gets incremented. So the transaction timestamps are numbered as 1, 2, 3, and so on in this particular case. So you have to first set the counter to 0, reset the counter to 0, and then start doing it. It will always have a finite, counter will always have a finite maximum value. So when no transactions are executing for some period of time, you will always have to reset it to 0. So one way of generating it is by using the counter. Counter is getting incremented every time its value is getting assigned to a transaction. So you are, let us say, the transaction timestamps, you are numbering it as 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You'll go on incrementing it. This counter is going to have a finite maximum value. It is not an infinite, it will not run into some infinite values. And if the no transactions are getting executed, when there are no transactions which are being executed, then you will have to set the counter to 0. Okay, now that is one way of implementing or generating the timestamps, which is by using the counter. The second way of doing it, what is the second possibility? Another way of implementing timestamp is to use the current time, date, and time. You make use of the current date and time value of the system clock. So all of us know that the system will have a clock. You have a system date and a system time. That itself can be used as a timestamp. But you have to ensure that no two transactions are getting generated, or no two time stamp values should get generated at the same time, same tick. At one particular tick of the clock, there is only one timestamp which is generated for a particular transaction. No two transactions can have the same timestamp value. That you have to ensure. You have to ensure that no two timestamp values are generated during the same second or same tick of the clock. Okay, so these are the two ways in which you can generate the timestamp. So we have understood what is a timestamp and how you can, or what are the different ways in which you can try to generate the timestamp. So one way of generating timestamp, as I said, is by using the counter, which will go on incrementing every time a value is assigned to a transaction. So for T1, you're assigning 1. Then it gets incremented. The next value that you have to assign is 2. So 2 will get assigned to the next transaction, let us say T2. Next value 3. 3 will get assigned to T3. And so on it will go. And if there are no transactions at any point of time, in that case, you will have to you will have to reset the counter to 0. That's one way of doing it. And always a counter will have a finite maximum value. There will be some finite countable number of values. It cannot run into infinite values. Then the next way of doing it is what? Next way of doing it is to use the date and time, system date and the system time value for the transactions. But what you should take care here, no two transactions, or rather no two timestamps are assigned to the same, what did I say? No two timestamp values are generated during the same particular time. You cannot assign that, because I said timestamp is always a unique identifier. Every transaction will have a unique identifier. There should at least be a change of 1 second there. Right? So these are the general concepts of a timestamp. Now we move on to the timestamp ordering algorithm. What is the algorithm that we are going to learn here? Timestamp ordering algorithm. There are 3 different versions of this algorithm. One is called as the basic timestamp ordering. Right? Then we have strict timestamp ordering. And then we have what is called Thomas Wright's rule. Thomas Wright rule. Now these are the 3 different ordering algorithms. All the idea for this scheme is to order the transaction based on their timestamps. Okay. Then you are trying to put the transactions in certain order, correct? So for all this is all actually based on timestamp ordering. That's why we call it as timestamp ordering algorithm. Timestamp ordering, we name it as TO. Means you are trying to order the transactions based on their timestamps. So if the timestamp is 1, then that will be the first transaction. If the timestamp is 2, then that will be the second transaction. So you are trying to put the transaction in a certain order, which is called as timestamp ordering, for which we make use of certain algorithm, and then you call them as timestamp ordering algorithm. Okay. Now this algorithm, each of this algorithm, all the 3, there are certain commonalities or some kind of what do you call conventions that we are using for all these algorithms. What are they? These algorithms, they will associate with each data item X 2 timestamp values. What are they? With every database item X. This item database item X means what? It can be a file, it can be a record, it can be a table, any database item X. Okay, all the 3 algorithms, they are going to use some commonalities. What are they? Some conventions. What are they? The algorithm will associate with each data item 2 timestamp values. 2 timestamp values. What are they? First one, you call it as read TS of X. That means what? It is the read timestamp. TS always, I said always the timestamp of a transaction T. You are always showing it as TS of T. Correct? That we have already seen. Now, every data item in the every database item is associated with 2 timestamp values. What are they? One is read TS of X. This read TS of X is nothing but read timestamp of item X. Okay. Now, this timestamp is the largest timestamp Largest timestamp among all the timestamps of transactions that have successfully read that item X. Right? So that means we say read TS of X is equal to TS of T. That read timestamp of X is equal to TS of T, where T is the youngest transaction that has read the X successfully. Are you getting me? Read TS of X. See, every algorithm, all these algorithms, they are going to associate with each database item X. Every database item called X. X can be, as I said, any database item. Every database item X will have two timestamp values associated with it. One is called as the read TS of X. The other one is called as the write TS of X. This write TS of X means write timestamp of X. Write timestamp of item X. What does this mean? When I say read timestamp, this is the TS, read TS of X is what? This is the largest timestamp among all the timestamp of transactions that have successfully read the item X. Read TS of X will always indicate the largest timestamp. There may be so many transactions which has read. What do we mean by largest timestamp means what here? There may be so many transactions which would have read this item X. There need not be only one transaction which reads this item X, correct? There will be so many transactions which has read this item X. So many transactions means there will be so many timestamps. Every transaction is going to have a timestamp. But whatever is indicated by this read TS of X, that is the largest timestamp among all the timestamps of transactions which are successfully read X. We assume that all the transactions are reading X successfully. So read TS of X is equal to, we always say, TS of T. Right? So maximum the timestamp is the largest timestamp of this particular transaction. TS of T means what? T is the youngest transaction that has read the X successfully.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, this part not able to get. Ma'am, read of TS of X is the largest time when there all the transactions are reading it simultaneously.
No. All the transactions will be reading simultaneously, but there will be a small variation before each of the transactions are submitted. All the transactions are reading read operations, as you said, they are all happening simultaneously only. Okay, but the time that it started reading, the time that it started executing, it will be varying by a fraction of a second. Timestamp will suppose at 10:1, one transaction started reading X. At 10:5, another transaction would have started reading X. It is allowed to read simultaneously. Now, 10:1 transaction, 10:2, 10:5 transaction, both are reading only. They are reading simultaneously, but they have not started at the same time. No.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so that is why I said TS of T is the youngest. T is youngest transaction because TS of T has got the read TS of X is maximum transaction. I will show you one example, maybe simple one. See, you have a data item X. Okay. Now this data item X, let us say it is being read by T1, it is read by T2, it is read by T3. All are reading simultaneously. Reading. Okay, all are reading, but they all would have not started at the same time. Okay, let us say this would have started at 10 a.m. reading X. This will start at 10:05. This will start at 10:10. Okay, but all are reading still. So this would have been given the timestamp 1. Timestamp of T2 is 2. Timestamp of T3 is 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now read TS of X is a maximum timestamp means what? This is your maximum timestamp.
The youngest will be the maximum timestamp.
Yeah, youngest will be the maximum trans. That's what I said. Now you got it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. See now, ma'am, when I say read TS of X, this is the maximum. This is the maximum timestamp, which is the youngest transaction now. It is nothing but your T3.
T3. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So when I say read TS of X is equal to TS of T, this T, which is our T here, our T is nothing but our T3 in this case. That is the youngest because it started late. That is why it is assigned to the maximum transaction. Are you getting that now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is what we say. Read TS of X is equal to TS of T means T is the youngest transaction that has read the X successfully. Now, similar to this, we are also every data item will have write TS of X also associated with that. Write timestamp of item X. Again, this is the largest of all the timestamps that have successfully written the item X. So here also we can say write TS of X is equal to TS of T, where T is the youngest transaction which has written X successfully. Same concept. Are you clear?
Ma'am, the write operation cannot be done simultaneously. Ma'am. It will be done by only one transaction at a time.
See, right, what will happen is the timestamp is assigned, but they'll have to wait. They would not be doing it simultaneously. They have successfully, they are, see, the largest of the timestamps of transaction that are successfully written. Here, simultaneously it will happen. Here, it may not simultaneously. In write, it will not happen simultaneously. See, same example if I take, T1 will start at is submitted for writing operation at 10 o'clock. So it will be assigned to the timestamp 1. Now, T2 is submitted for, it is requesting for a write operation, but it will not be given. It has to wait. But timestamp is assigned. It is the second one, which will go next for writing.
Okay.
Yeah. T3 again, it is submitted for execution. It has also requested for a write operation at 10:10, but immediately it will not start writing. But it is assigned a timestamp. It is waiting.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it is. See, when I say timestamp of item X, write TS of X, that is the largest of all timestamps of transactions that have successfully written the item. Or compared to all transaction, this is the largest of the timestamp. T3 is the largest. It has success. All these are successfully written. I didn't say it will simultaneously write.
Ma'am, if there is a case that T1 is writing still,
Hmm.
T2 requested, T3 requested, but they
Yeah.
have not given the permission to write.
Yeah,
Ma'am,
they
then
will not.
the
Yeah, they will not be given the permission, but they will be assigned the timestamp.
ma'am, the maximum timestamp still will be T3.
Yeah, it will be T3 only because it was submitted late. No, it was submitted last.
I thought, ma'am, the that transaction which will complete each write execution, then it will be considered as the maximum timestamp.
No, 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 no. See, it is a see. When I say timestamp, I say timestamp can be. When is the timestamp given? Timestamp is a unique identifier. It is assigned at the time the transaction is submitted for execution.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So moment what I told you in the beginning when I told about timestamp, it is a unique identifier. It is a unique identifier which is assigned when the transaction is submitted to the system. So submitted to the system means what? It is. I also told that timestamp can be thought of as a transaction start time. It is not the ending time. Here I
Yes, ma'am.
told you no? Previously. I
Yes,
think.
ma'am.
1 minute. Let me go back. Yeah. Here I told you. See, it is always the transaction start time. The timestamp is considered to be. So I submitted the transaction. So the timestamp may be assigned that time. Counter value is, suppose I'm using counters. So counter value may get incremented immediately. But it has to wait until one finishes the write operation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So all these three algorithms, they are going to be associated with two timestamp values, read TS of X, write TS of X. Whichever algorithm we are going to use, all the items, data item X say, will have two timestamp values. Read TS of X and write TS of X. Okay. Any questions, others? No questions? Fine. Okay. Now we start with the basic timestamp ordering. Okay. So now, in case of basic timestamp ordering algorithm, or you call it as basic TO, right? Now, whenever some transaction tries to issue a read item of X or even a write item of X operation, okay, suppose let us say some transaction T. It is trying to issue either a read item on X or it wants to write the item X. Then what will happen in case of the basic timestamp ordering algorithm? In case of this basic TO algorithm, it compares the timestamp of T. See, moment this transaction is executed, submitted for execution, there is going to be some timestamp associated with this T. Now, this timestamp of this T is going to be compared with, I already said that there will always be a read TS of X and write TS of X. Now, this is already there for that X. Now, this transaction is coming in now, right? So, the timestamp of this transaction T will be compared with this read TS of X and write TS of X to ensure that the order of transaction execution is not violated. You have to ensure that it is not violated. If the order is violated, then the transaction is aborted. It will not continue. This transaction will get aborted and this transaction has to be resubmitted as a new transaction with a new timestamp value. Right? So if T is aborted and rolled back, then any other transaction T1 that might have used a value also should be rolled back. If this one is aborted and if it is got rolled back, then if you any other transaction, let us say T1, which would have used a value which was previously written by T, then that also should be rolled back. In this case, we call it as a cascading rollback. This is one of the problem in case of basic TO algorithm. If one transaction gets aborted and it is rolled back, whatever values were written by that particular transaction, those transactions also have to get rolled back. It's a cascading ripple effect kind of thing. Okay, now let us see it in more detail. So as I said, whenever a transaction wants to issue a read operation, read item of X, or a write operation, write item of X or on X, first you have to compare the timestamp of T with read TS of X and write TS of X. Because it is very important that you maintain the order of the transactions in which they are executed. If the order is going to get violated, then you will have to abort the transaction and resubmit it for execution. That is your basic timestamp ordering. That is what we are going to, we have the name itself says, ordering. You have to execute the transaction based on the order of the timestamps, the order in which the timestamps are given to the transactions. First timestamp T1, if a transaction has a timestamp 1, then that only has to be executed first. If a transaction has a timestamp 2, it only has to be executed second. You cannot change that order. Always the values are compared in case of basic TO. Now, let us see the first step, first sub-step under that. Let us say a transaction T, it issues a write item of X. Write item operation on the data item X. Suppose it issues that. Okay. So in this case, what will happen? What I said, this read TS of X and write TS of X has to be compared with this particular transaction. So we will be comparing if this, what is it, read TS of X, if it is going to be greater than timestamp of T. Okay. Or if your write TS of X is greater than your TS of T, then you have to abort this particular transaction and you will have to roll back it. Abort and roll back. That means you have to abort and roll back T and reject that particular operation. This should be done because some younger transaction with the timestamp greater than TS of T has already read or written the value of item X. That is why you will be violating the timestamp ordering. If this condition does not occur, suppose this condition is not satisfied, then the write operation can be done and you will set this write TS of X to TS of T. So TS of T is the most important thing to be considered. Some other younger transaction with the timestamp which is greater than TS of T. Okay, some younger transaction has already written that value. So you cannot now go and write because you are a transaction with the greater value there. So that means you are trying to violate the timestamp order. But if this condition is not satisfied, if it is not greater than TS of X, then the transaction T can go ahead with the write operation. And then after writing, that is more important, you have to set this write TS of X to TS of T. This you have to set. So this will become the next write value to be compared with any other operations. The second operation is if it issues a read item of X. Okay, here also, if this write TS of X is going to be greater than TS of T, it has already, that means somebody has already, written that value. So you will again have to abort and then you will have to roll back that particular transaction. If this write TS of X is less than or equal to, the other option is only less than or equal to TS of T, then you can execute the read item of X and then you will have to set the read TS of X to the TS of T. That is what you have to do. To the larger TS of T, because you are doing a read operation, you have to set it to the larger operation. Larger TS of T, that is because you have many read operations which are happening. Whichever transaction has got the highest timestamp, you have to set it to that. Any doubts? Any questions?
Ma'am, there.
Can you explain the operations, ma'am?
Sorry?
Ma'am, can you explain the operations? One second, ma'am.
Which one?
Ma'am,
Come again.
ma'am, in this only.
Your doubt
In
is
this
not
only, ma'am.
clear.
Basic timestamp.
Huh? See, when I said basic timestamp ordering, whenever a transaction wants to issue a read or write operation, the basic timestamp ordering, that is your basic TO algorithm, it should compare the timestamp of T. Timestamp of T means what? The transaction which is trying to issue the timestamp of the transaction which is issuing the read or the write. You have to check the timestamp of this transaction with the read TS of that particular item and the write TS of that particular item. Read TS is what? It contains the maximum timestamp. Largest timestamp it is already having. That means some younger transaction has already done the read or the write operation. That's why that previous part, what I told, is very, very important. Understanding of this concept, what I told here, read TS of X and write TS of X, this is very important to follow further. Read TS of X is what? It is the largest timestamp of X. Read TS of X will contain the largest timestamp of X. And it is always equal to TS of the T, where T will be the youngest transaction. So now, if any of the transaction T, let us say a new transaction T, wants to issue a read or a write operation on X, then what you should do? You have to first compare the timestamp of this new transaction with this read and write TS of X. What does this read and write contain? Read TS of X contains the largest timestamp, and which is associated with the youngest transaction. Now here, if this is going to be, when you want to issue a write operation, let us say this T wants to, new transaction T wants to do a write operation on X. What I said, you have to compare the timestamp of this T with the read TS of X and the write TS of X. This read TS of X contains the largest timestamp and the youngest transaction which has already done the read operation. So, if this is going to be greater than this timestamp value, that means some younger transaction, that is this associated with this read TS of X, I said TS of T, the younger transaction. It has all new, some of the recent update has already happened. So there is no point in doing this. You have to abort it. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Anyone? Raman, you are able to understand what I'm trying to tell?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, if this read TS of X is greater than the timestamp of the new transaction, that means read TS of X is greater means what? It is having the largest timestamp associated with the youngest transaction. So some recent youngest means what? Youngest means what? That particular, this transaction is started after this. So there is no point in this transaction doing any write operation anymore. You have to abort and roll back it. Something after that, very recent updations has already taken place. Then what's the point in having the older write and read operation? So you should not do it. The same thing holds with write also. So whenever you want to do a write operation, this is what you have to check. And when you do the write, if this condition is not satisfied, that means this is less than or equal to, then you can allow the write operation to happen. But once you finish the write operation, you have to set this. Write TS of X should be equal to set to that timestamp of that particular transaction which did the write. So that transaction, that new transaction, no, that will become the youngest transaction now. Any doubts in this? It's very important to understand, maybe a little tricky, but you have to understand that. That's why the
Ma'am,
tell.
Suppose if there are three transactions, T1, T2, and T3, which are coming at 10, 10, 0, 10, 5, 10, 10.
Okay.
And ma'am, for in one transaction, they are having read TS of X. But ma'am, what I am getting confused, ma'am, if say TS of T2 for the one transaction.
No. Understand one thing. Read TS of X. X is what is associated with read TS, not the transaction. That particular item, X has been read. So by which transaction it was read and at what timestamp value was there. That is what the read TS will have. Read TS will hold what? Read TS of X is nothing but is a largest timestamp it is holding of X.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so this read TS of X is also equal to TS of T, which indicates which is the transaction which did that. That transaction will become the youngest transaction, which did a read operation on X with this particular timestamp.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, let me go back to that previous example that I gave you. 1 minute. See, you have a read item X. Okay. Now, T1 wants to read that, T2 wants to read that, T3 also wants to read that. They want to do a read operation on that. Okay. T1 will start, is submitted at 10 o'clock. T2 is submitted at 10:05. T3 is submitted at 10:10. So, let us say I'm using a counter as a timestamp. So this T1 will be assigned timestamp 1, T2 will be assigned timestamp 2, T3 will be assigned timestamp 3. So now this read TS of X is nothing but 3. This is what we call it as the largest timestamp of X. And I also said this read TS of X is also equal to TS of T. What is
Yes, ma'am.
T here? T in our case is nothing but T3. Yeah, this is nothing but the youngest transaction. Youngest means the most recent transaction. So
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is the value of read TS of X now? It is 3. Timestamp value it holds. Now, suppose another transaction comes, T4. Okay. And suppose it is this case, what I said, no, the previous, now I'm coming to our basic TO algorithm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Now let us say this T4 wants to do a read operation. Okay. Now let us assume that T4 has the timestamp 1. Let us say if this also was given at the same time, T4 also has a timestamp 1. What will happen? TS of T is what now? TS of T4 is what? 1.
1.
Yeah. Now,
Yes, ma'am.
what is read TS of? It wants to do a read operation on X. Okay. First, you have to compare it with read TS of X. Read TS of X if it is greater than TS of T4. This is 3. This is greater than 1. So, this particular transaction will be aborted. Why? Because a more recent transaction has already done this. T3 means what? It has come much later than this particular T4. Let us say T4 came sometime, somewhere here only. Somewhere at this point, T4 came off.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the timestamp or any time? See, any time this transaction timestamp transaction can execute request for a read operation. Suppose it is requesting at that point of time. It is only 1 timestamp. Let us say it is 1 timestamp is 1. So 3 is greater than 1 means what? This is a maximum timestamp already there. That means TS is equal to what? Okay. Now this one. Read TS of X is TS of T. TS of T, T is already the youngest. T3 is the youngest transaction which has already done this operation. So there is no point in T4 again doing that particular operation. So it has to be aborted. Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The same thing holds for write also. But if it is lesser, suppose this was 4. Timestamp of T4 was 4. So this condition is not satisfied. In that case, you will allow T4 to read. And then you have to set this read TS of X to TS of T4. What is that? Now this will become 4. So this will become the recent value of X. This T4 will become now the youngest transaction which has done the most recent read or write or whatever. Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So
So
this is
that is all.
just done to avoid before transaction to again manipulate the data.
Sorry.
This algorithm is to prevent previous transaction to again modify the data.
No, this will prevent the way in which the transactions has to be, the order in which the transaction has to be executed. You cannot allow a particular transaction with a smaller timestamp to execute once it is done with a bigger timestamp. The order should be maintained. T4, if it has a timestamp of 4, then it has to come after 3 only. And if 3 is already done, there is no point in doing with 4. Or there is no, if it has 4, then it has to come after 3. If timestamp 3 is over, then 4 transaction with the timestamp 4 is allowed. But if your transaction is coming with the timestamp 1, whereas 3 is already over, you cannot allow this to do because you are violating the order in which the transactions have to be executed.
Yeah. Okay.
Any transaction with a lower timestamp will not be allowed. That is a funda here. Any transaction with a higher timestamp will be allowed to execute. The order has to be maintained. That's why you call it as timestamp ordering. Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's how it is. Same thing will apply for the read as well as the write operation. So once it is, if this condition is not satisfied, you are not satisfied, you allow the operation to happen, and then you have to set it. Finally, you are setting this. Next, when you compare, you will be comparing the 4 with something else, not the 3. 3 is gone because there is more younger transaction which is doing a particular operation on X. That's how it is. Right. So the other variations we probably will see it in the next class. Answer attendance, Anaka,
Yes, ma'am.
Abhilash,
Yes, ma'am.
Akhil, Akrut,
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Anusha,
Yes, ma'am.
Aravind, okay, Arifullah,
Yes, ma'am.
Banu,
Yes, ma'am.
Danaka, Bhargav,
Yes, ma'am.
Rahmatullah,
Present, ma'am.
Chaitra,
Present, ma'am.
Chandana,
Present, ma'am.
Charan,
Yes, ma'am.
Darshan,
Present, ma'am.
Diksha,
Present, ma'am.
Dakshayani,
Present, ma'am.
Kishan, Harshit,
Present, ma'am.
Hema,
Present, ma'am.
Uma,
Present.
Jayant,
Present, ma'am.
Divya,
Yes, ma'am.
Kaushik,
Present, ma'am.
Lakshmi,
Present, ma'am.
Lavanya,
Present, ma'am.
Manish,
Present, ma'am.
Manoj,
Yes, ma'am.
Mohit,
Yes, ma'am.
Naval,
Present, ma'am.
Navya,
Present, ma'am.
Nikhil,
Present, ma'am.
Panindra,
Present, ma'am.
Pavan,
Yes, ma'am.
Pooja,
Present, ma'am.
Purima,
Present, ma'am.
Aman,
Present, ma'am.
Rashmi, Rupak,
Yes,
Sai
ma'am.
Kumar,
Present,
Neem,
ma'am.
Present, ma'am.
Santosh,
Present, ma'am.
Chadab,
Present, ma'am.
Sharan,
Present, ma'am.
Shashank,
Present, ma'am.
Vital, Shivani,
Present, ma'am.
Soumya,
Present, ma'am.
Spurti,
Present, ma'am.
no?
Present, ma'am.
Sugandhini,
Present, ma'am.
Krishna,
Present, ma'am.
Sushmita BS,
Present, ma'am.
Sushmita U,
Present, ma'am.
Geeta,
Present, ma'am.
Tripti,
Present, ma'am.
Varshavina.
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
So Sheetal is absent, and who else is absent here? Kishan is absent. Aravind, of course, is absent. Right. So we'll continue this topic in the next class. Thank you.